Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. We're doing our second review today of the second Goosebumps movie called Goosebumps Haunted Halloween.
Yeah, we are. And so for starters, shit. I did not see this movie. I was like, they really made this look really babyish by the poster and the trailer. And I just thought, like, oh, look, they're putting the It kids in a Goosebumps movie. Like, oh, how fun. It's like they're just... It was really funny, too, because at first the sequel was titled Horrorland. It was going to be a movie called Goosebumps Horrorland. And everyone was really excited for it. And then they're like, no, fuck that. We're doing Goosebumps 2 Haunted Halloween with the It kids. And I was like, I don't want to watch that. Sorry. And plus, it didn't look like it would have Jack Black. It looked like he wasn't going to be in it. And that was also a huge, like, well, if he's not in it, then I'm really not going to watch it. So, but then we watched it finally. Safi?
Well, I liked it a lot. So, and Jack Black was in it at the end. And he really didn't even need to be there. They kind of figure out, the kids in it who were in middle school, although it was, I'd say 8th grade.
Yeah.
And high school, senior high school.
Like,
senior in a high school, getting ready for college, working on her college application to go to college the following year.
And let's emphasize, by 8th grade, we mean like the last month of being in 8th grade, like with those kids, right?
Yeah, they're all getting ready to move on.
Yeah.
Move up. Anyway, that's okay. Because the story was not really about little kids anyway. And actually, and it was no story. It did have characters or figures or whatever from the original Goosebumps stories, and Slappy, because he was like, I would say he was the second star or the star of the whole thing. And it was actually really good. It was I'd say it was about 1,000 times better than the first one. It's too bad they didn't start off with as good as this one was with the first one.
Yeah, well, the thing is that this movie really isn't Goosebumps.
No.
It's modern Goosebumps. In fact, I thought it would be a good Slappy World book because it's very much like a Slappy World story. Where it all revolves around Slappy.
And it does eventually.
And it really does feel like a Slappy World book. So if you are a fan of the Slappy Worlds, I'd say you'd be a fan of this movie.
Yeah, it would be a good Slappy World book.
The problem is that this movie still isn't Goosebumps. So they took a step forward, but they also just are still backward in terms of they still never made a Goosebumps movie. Like I really felt with this movie, like you could have just put anything as the title and it would have worked. Like, there's no reason it even needs to be Goosebumps, because, once again, this movie's not in Ohio, it's in New York.
But he did live in New York, in part of it.
Yeah, but his stories are in Ohio.
Yeah, I know that.
That's what makes Goosebumps unique, it's in Ohio.
I know, but I'm just saying that the author... he may still live there too, in New York somewhere.
But if you don't really, if you just want to watch a good movie, I would say it is a good movie. I liked it.
It was a good Halloween movie.
It was very fun. It was a nice Halloween movie. There were barely any criticisms that I have about the movie, which is pretty rare. And yeah, so it's pretty funny. Like, I don't know how did they go from that awful first one to this really good second one to that abysmal show? Like, how did they... it's too bad. It's like, because honestly, I would have rather have had a part 3 to this movie than have the show that we got. That shitty show. Wouldn't you, Safi?
Yeah, and they did make it to where they could have a sequel to this one.
Yeah, and I was really excited after the twist, too, because I thought it was a great twist. And I thought that it was a perfect setup for a sequel. So it's too bad. And it's also too bad, I guess, that I didn't give the movie a chance. But again, this movie really seemed like, from the marketing, that it would be even worse than the first one. And it seemed like it was going to be worse at the start, too, because first off, there's a couple of jump scares as the movie begins. And I don't like jump scares, that's a sign of poor quality movie. And then the sister, they made her like really attractive, and it was like they made her attractive so that they wouldn't have to give the main kid a love interest, because he's like an overweight kid, so like they didn't want to have to give him like a pretty love interest, so they had his sister be the pretty girl character in the movie.
But they gave him a bully or two. They
gave
him 3.
They gave the fat kid a bully, but they wouldn't give him a pretty love interest. So, that's what I'm saying is that like with the first movie, that boring guy gets to have that love interest, and then in this movie you have this character, he doesn't get jack shit. He gets a best friend who is nice. Like that's it. That's all he gets. And it's like it just shows these movies nowadays, they have a problem with that kind of thing, and then also the main family is a single parent family again, Safi, again.
Whatever, Marco. She has there is a man in town who's interested in her.
Yeah, so
she's a nurse and she works all night. She works all the time. Because she's going to have a daughter going to college, and she has a son who apparently is extremely smart and probably get a college scholarship to some nice university too, and he'll probably need money to go to college too, so she's working her ass off.
There's also a really dated joke about cryptocurrency that I thought was stupid, but as soon as this movie really got to the plot, I guess, that's when I was like, uh-oh, this is a good movie. Whoops. Like, I should have seen this in 2018 because I really wish that I had, because it's worth watching.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, with so many of these shows and movies that are just worthless, it was a real surprise.
Yeah, a good surprise. And even though it's still not Goosebumps, like, honestly, if I had to watch 2 hours of Goosebumps, anything, I would watch an old story, I would watch The Perfect School, Night in Terror Tower, The Haunted Mask. Like, that's what I would do instead. Instead of watching these crappy movies and the show, I would watch the old show. Because that's all you need, because that's when they were actually trying to adapt the books.
And actually, this movie, it could be a standalone movie, because at the end, Jack Black does appear, and they mentioned his name because they call him. That's why he appears, because they're in trouble, and they think that maybe he can help. And it does, and then when everything works out, he said, "I guess you didn't need me," and he said something about that book, opening the book, whatever, the books. It does work, and he did it before, got rid of bad things 3 times or more, and so, but that was the only reference to the previous one.
Yeah.
And you really it didn't matter. You didn't have to even see the previous one.
Yeah.
When you heard that, because you don't even know if that's what he's referring to. We do, because we just watched the other one. But if for somebody who's just watching this one and never watched the other one, it wouldn't matter. You could watch, this is like a standalone movie, and then of course, if they wanted to, which, if that was in 2018, this is 2023, it's almost, nearing the end of it.
They're not going to make a sequel to this.
I
don't think it was very popular, because it looked a lot more babyish
Well,
in the marketing.
Everybody probably thought it was like the first one.
Yeah, well,
that's probably what happened, like you did.
And yeah, I did. And if I had known it was a good movie, I would have seen it. Because this is not like the first movie at all.
Not at all.
It's so much better in every way, shape, or form. And it's got some funny jokes, too. It's got good characters. It's got... the music is better, although it's still kind of generic. And so there's not really much to complain about. And so I guess we should talk about like what happens, because it kind of starts off as like a slappy Night of the Living Dummy story, and then it transforms into the haunted Halloween story.
Yeah, and the thing about why it's called Haunted Halloween is the book. This is supposed to be R.L. Stine's first book, and he really didn't finish it. In fact, you don't know that until the end, near the end. Like, let's say there's a fourth of the movie left, and you know that he wrote the books. She starts looking through it, and near the end, because they're at the end of the rope, and then she finds out that this is the sister, and tells everybody, oh my God, there's no ending to this story.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, they have already called R.L. Stine. He's on his way, and he's like 2 hours away. So he's driving. So it's going to take him a while to get there. But it's the story, Haunted Halloween. So and guess who the main character of the story is? Slappy. Well, how did Slappy come into the story at all?
That was part of the issue that I have with the movie, was they go into this kind of creepy old house, and
their house clear out people.
Yeah, I thought that was cool that these characters did that. That was fun.
We know people who do, or I know people who do that. They're usually adults, but these are kids, and they ask them to clear out the house. Or they call it a schoolhouse, which I didn't get that. But anyway, you just take everything out, and they don't want. Sometimes they want some of the stuff, but most of the time, they can just throw it away or keep whatever they want for themselves, and they sell it online.
Yeah, but they find Slappy, and they find that book, and so my issue is like, what's the story with like why R.L. Stine left that stuff in the house? Like, I thought that he was going to explain it at the end and be like, I really shouldn't have left that stuff in the house, should I have? That's a big plot hole. Ha ha ha. But he never talks about it. They never even bring it up. It's like, why was that stuff there?
Well, the only thing I can think of is, now this might refer back to the first movie, because at his house in the first movie, he had all the books put, in order on a bookcase, in a bookcase.
That was Delaware, though.
I know that, but then when everything Slappy made, the Pasadena monster came, and when he came alive, he ripped the room apart, and all the books came flying off the shelves. And then Slappy had all of his minions he brought to life. They got the books. They were all outside of the house, and those lawn gnomes were opening them up, and maybe it was just one of the books that got scattered around, and somebody else picked it up, and they took it, and then they forgot about it, and it got left behind the house. That's what I was thinking. It was just like something that somebody just picked up. Maybe it was, they bought it at a thrift store, or just picked it up like it was on the ground. They just picked it up.
I don't know. But I thought that was kind of an issue, obviously, because, how did that end up there?
Here I am.
You're coming up with the story again.
Yeah,
we don't do that here.
Filling up the holes, but you don't have to really do that in this movie. It's just that. That's what I was thinking, though, when it was there, and somehow he didn't get back in the book, which I thought we saw him go back in the book. But
I thought it was kind of like it wasn't real. I wasn't really sure, like, if he went, or they didn't really show exactly, and so I guess it was just kind of implied. And then we find out, obviously, he didn't get put back in the book. But
and the other thing, he had the magical words with him. Remember, because didn't the boy, the smarty pants boy, didn't he read the words several times? Yeah,
he tried, and it starts off where they find Slappy, and he kind of like helps them out, and he becomes a part of the family.
Because he wants a family.
Yeah.
At least he says he does.
And I thought that was cool too.
And he helped him fight bullies.
Yeah.
That was one of the funniest parts in the movie.
That was one of the coolest parts, because I was like, I'd like to see a whole movie of this, of like Slappy actually being like the good character or something. Like, that would have been interesting too. But then he ends up causing too much trouble, because I think he tries to fix the main kid's science project, and it backfires.
It blows up the science lab at his school.
Yeah.
I guess Tesla was from the area they were living, and it was a Tesla project.
Safi, Tesla is from a country in Europe.
Well, maybe he moved to that area. I don't know.
I think he did for a while. I'm not sure, but he.
I don't think they just make up all that stuff about Tesla.
No. Well, it's just strange though, the fact that like it's like they had a second chance. Like, make it take place in Ohio. Oh no, it's got to be in New York. Like Jason Takes Manhattan. That was really popular, right? So we got to have it in New York, and we got to have the kids meet Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver. Wouldn't that have been funny? If he showed up, Robert De Niro, and then he took the kids in a ride, and then they never came back. That'd be funny. Safi.
Whatever. I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, I don't know why that would be funny. That would be like kidnapping.
No, because it's Robert De Niro. He can't kidnap. He's Robert De Niro, Taxi Driver. He's too cool for that. But so also he overhears that the blonde girl, that her boyfriend cheated on her, and so Slappy pushes him off a ladder or something, and then he ends up in the hospital. So
at school, they're getting ready to have a big who knows what, another dance. They're having a dance, or they're just having a party or whatever, and he gets up on a ladder. I mean, a huge ladder up to at the ceiling, and he makes the ladder fall, and the kid falls all the way to the ground. You're talking about maybe 6 feet to the ground, and hurts himself.
Yeah.
And has to go to the hospital. So, this is when the girl doesn't really know about the dummy.
Yeah. So this Slappy isn't someone to screw around with. He is very much like the old school Slappy with hints of the new Slappy, kind of like he is a lot like the one from Slappy World. And I really love the guy who did his voice, because he did his voice a lot like in Slappy World, with the laugh. Mm-hmm. And so it really reminded me of the Slappy World Slappy. So I thought that was cool. And that's when he turns evil, because the kids are like, WTF, and then he, that's when he kind of turns evil. Safi.
Well, the problem is, he doesn't, at first he wants a family, but in the book, which they eventually look at, like I said, near the end of the movie, he wants a mother, and he decides he wants their mother, but that comes later on, before all this mayhem starts. In fact, the mayhem, they have to have the mayhem first before he kidnaps the mother.
Yeah.
Because the mayhem is the thing that captures their mother and then brings her to Slappy. And Slappy holds himself up into first he goes around and he gets that Madonna Maranu, Adona, whatever spell, and he goes all over, like he goes in this really good, it was a hardware store, and had all this really good Halloween decorative stuff, mask, and all kinds of really good decorations, because this is a big Halloween town. They really decorate, which is really nice. And he makes everything come alive. And so they do have, in the store, they have some masks from the old Goosebumps shows. Like the Pasadena monster. I don't know what their fascination is with this Pasadena monster.
It's really strange because, like, nobody... I thought it was kind of cool originally that they put that monster in the story because, you know, nobody really likes that book. It's one of the least popular books. And so it was cool that they highlighted him, but at the same time, like, you know, where's Haunted Mask or something like that, you know, like...
and those were really good.
Or where's, let's see, what else would be? Well, Night in Terror Tower, Werewolf Skin, like, Stay Out of the Basement, although that would be a little difficult. And, yeah.
So he goes all over, and then after it makes everything come alive, there's a mask. It's not the haunted mask, it's another kind of old people mask. Remember, in the second one, the boys, or the one boy gets a haunted mask, and he makes himself an old man. There's spiders in his hair. That's a haunted mask, too. Well, it wasn't exactly like that one. It was just another version. And the store manager or owner is there because he's the only person there till we're closing, and Slappy's in there, and he makes this mask get on to that guy's face and stay there, like, you know, the haunted mask too, where he can't get it off.
Yeah, I thought that was cool too.
And so he becomes that character. It's like an Igor character, like who helps in the lab, Dr. Frankenstein or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he helps Slappy. And so they go all around the town, and there's all these they decorate everywhere. And so they brought pumpkins to life, and they had these at the store. They had these this witches decor, and they gave bodies to the mask that he turned alive. They gave bodies to them, and it was just actually really cool. And like people had rubber bats hanging up from their houses on their trees, and they brought all those to life. So they did all that, so it caused mayhem. They were everything was chasing the kids and adults, and and the kids had that book, and they found out by accident, the boy did, that by opening it they could trap whatever mayhem was happening or whatever creature was causing a problem. So they started going around capturing everything into the book, because it is haunted Halloween, so all of the things, the masks, the figures, they're haunted. So that would be in the book.
Yeah, and one of the cool parts, at least for me, was the part where the gummy bears come to life.
Yeah, that was cool.
I thought that was really cool, and I was surprised because, you know, the trailer, when I saw that, I was like, this looks really babyish, but it really worked out in the movie. I thought that was one of the best parts.
Well, how that happened just is the bully stole the book, and in order to get the book, now the bully has been taken away, and his two friends by, what were they, the witches?
Yeah.
And took them away off their bicycles.
Yeah.
And they flew up in the air, and they just disappeared. So they had to go into his house, and his grandma, he lives with his grandma, was asleep. So in the foyer, there was gummy bears. In one of those bowls that has like a hand, and when you put your hand in there, it comes alive and grabs your hand or something. But it's because it's battery operated and it's motion censored. And so there's all these little tiny, cute little gross gummy bears. I don't like gummy bears.
I don't really like them a lot, but they look delicious in the movie, I guess, because they looked a lot softer. And, you know, my biggest problem with gummy bears is that they're hard as a rock, and they're not, like, soft like gummy worms.
Well, I just don't think they have any flavor.
They kind of do sometimes, and but the fucking gummy bears in this movie, they looked really delicious, and so I really like that scene. And no, I'm not being sarcastic. This is not a fake review, because doesn't it sound kind of like a fake review, like what you least expected that we would like this movie?
I think I remember reading about it that the people like the gummy bears part.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I like the whole thing. Like, I really felt like the whole movie was extremely entertaining from beginning to end. Like, there really wasn't, like, a bad part of the movie to me, except for there was kind of, like, a couple of things near the end. Like, Jack Black, he comes back, and he says, God, my writing was so cliche back then.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's just stupid, because, like, so what, is your writing better now? Like, I don't think so. Like, I'm sorry, but, like, his writing was a lot better back then, in the 90s, and that time where he made the good Goosebumps books, like, and so I thought that was a little queer. Like, that line was stupid.
Because I think that he's not writing this, it's these other people. So... to me, that's weird.
Yeah, because, like, would anyone really say, like, no matter if you like the Slappy World books or not, would anyone really say that the new books are the best that he can write? Like, they're the best he has to offer? Like, I don't think so.
Right.
Welcome to Dead House obliterates the entire Slappy World series alone.
So anyway, the way they found out that the book has this power is that those gummy bears, they came to life too, and they came down the stairs, and the kid and also the dish with the hand came alive, and you couldn't shut it off or anything because it was alive, and so and the boy, I don't know what his name is, his friend liked gummy bears, so he started to grab some before they left. And the hand grabbed him, wouldn't let him go, and then the gummy bears came alive, but not as, at first they were really cute, but then he touched them and they all got real big, and they started acting like the Blob. Yeah. And they started enveloping him, and... They
were a better Blob than the Blob in the first movie. Yeah.
And so when the guy, I don't know how it is, he accidentally opened the book, somehow, and the gummy bears were all sucked into there and that candy dish, and that's how they found out about the power of it. So then it moves on. You have people running everywhere. There's cars going off the road and people running, just going because they're being attacked by pumpkins and bats and witches, and
it's very fun.
Everything else, and
it's actually fun. It's not like the first movie where people just pretend like it's fun, even though it's a piece of shit.
So they all end up at this Tesla building. I guess it's the original lab where there was an original Tesla project.
Well, remember, he had multiple labs.
Okay, well, one of them.
Yeah.
And Slappy is there, and they had a giant spider. In some of these yards, you have these giant decorations. Mainly, it's been these big skeletons, because my other son has one of those. So they're like 6 feet tall or more. And so there was a giant spider like that. And it had grabbed the mother, and then she was tied up in a chair, and Slappy did that spell on her and turned her into a puppet.
Yeah.
Because he wanted his new thing.
I thought that was cool, too.
He didn't want a family. He wanted a mother.
Yeah.
And that was in the book. So then they have all this struggle. And, they have this book. It got stolen from them, and they got it back. and because one of the flying whatever took it and brought it there, but they managed to get the book back, and I guess Slappy was going to burn it or something. But anyway, meanwhile, you see Jack Black, or I should say R.L. Stine, is roaring there in his car, trying to get there to help them, and they're really helping themselves, figuring out what to do. And they do figure it out, and R.L. Stine...
Yeah, I thought that was nice, too, that the kids actually did the final victory without R.L. Stine. Like, I did think that Jack Black was underutilized in this movie. Like, it felt like they couldn't afford him or something. Like, it was really weird.
Well, maybe he was doing another movie.
But it was really... He was hardly in the movie, but I really did like that they defeated the bad guys without his help. I felt like... it's kind of funny, the teenagers from the first one, they couldn't do that. You know, they couldn't handle it, but these kids who are younger could. So...
Well, what happened was the kid, I do have to say this, but I think it happens at the end. It's like a epilogue kind of thing. The kid was doing, for a science project, this Tesla project, and it kept shorting out.
Yeah.
And he brought it to school. I told you that Slappy did something to it and made it work really well, but then it got too powerful and it blew up the science lab. Well, anyway, he figured out that since he kept screwing it up, they would just screw up the big one too, because the Tesla thing was on, and it had all this power, was working somehow to keep all these creatures going. So he said, let's short it out. That's what I'm really good at anyway.
Yeah.
And so they do. That's how it gets defeated. And I just wanted to say, like in an epilogue, the boy wins some kind of Tesla award, and guess who gives him the award?
R.L.
The
Stine.
real one. Only he's a different person.
That was fun.
Yeah, so he actually got a cameo in this movie, which is probably best because it was the better movie
Yeah.
than the other one.
A lot better.
Yeah.
So, and the one thing I will criticize about that is that the ending has a sky portal, and, you know, sky portals, they're really the worst. I mean, they're really awful and stupid. Like, if a movie has a sky portal, that is like a sign that the movie's bad, usually. Because, like, that's something that so many modern movies have. It's like, oh, let's have a sky portal at the end. But this movie's actually good. So, that's surprising. Like, it's a sky portal movie that's good.
And also at the end, they do have this thing where you think there might be a sequel. And that is, you see Jack Black, and he's at a cabin in the woods, and he's typing away on another story. And while he's doing that, Slappy appears. And I guess Slappy's been writing a book too. He says, "You're in it," and then R.L.
Yeah, you're the main character.
Yeah, and so he opens the book, and R.L. Stine goes into the book.
Yeah. That was a great ending. That was a great twist. And it's too bad they didn't make a third one. They made this piece of shit show that nobody wanted instead.
Yeah.
And but then also they really should make a real Goosebumps, or someone needs to. I don't think that, because like I think too, like we should probably be blaming Sony, because Sony, if they were displeased with the idea of these movies, they could have told the people making it, no, you have to make a real Goosebumps movie and not whatever this is. And so I blame Sony, because like a lot of people have said, and I would agree with the people who said this, you could do like a movie where it's like Creepshow, and you have it's like an anthology movie where it starts off and maybe Jack Black could be in there as R.L. Stine, and then you'd have the 3 stories in the one movie, and that would be that. Like, that would have been a lot better than these movies that they made. But still, this is the movie that we got, and honestly, like, it's good, and I would watch it again. So,
yeah, and if you want to watch it, it's on. At least for me, it was on Netflix. Not Netflix.
No, it's on Hulu.
The first one is on Netflix.
Yeah, that's the sign it's bad, by the way. It's on Netflix.
This one is on Hulu, but it's on FX.
And Hulu's a lot better than Netflix,
So
FYI.
if you have FX, then you can get it too, which you probably already know. So, anyway, that's it. How about you? What do you...
What's your food review?
My food review is all my favorite Halloween candy in a bag.
Oh, that's a cop-out.
Like Tootsie Rolls and Milky Ways and like little tiny Hershey's bars with almonds. Those would be like my favorite.
Yeah, the candy choice at the store was very disappointing.
Well, it's because it's the day before Halloween. Everybody, it was packed.
It
was like a holiday.
They had no Milky Ways at all, and I love Milky Ways.
We also like those peanut butter. They call them peanut butter blossoms.
And they also had no Hershey's bags. You know where they have the different kinds of Hershey's candy? You know, you have the crackle, the almond, and the regular, and then maybe the Mr. Good bar.
And they have dark.
Mr. Good bar, too.
Yeah, that's the one with the...
They didn't have any of those. They didn't have any of those bags. And that was really disappointing. Like, that's like, it's like, what the hell? Like, now you're not going to put out the candy that we want, or we have to buy the...
No, it was all bought.
I don't know.
It was packed. It was like a holiday.
Yeah.
People, and it's so cold. I mean, if I were a kid, I don't think I'd even want to go out. It's awful.
No,
it's going to be worse tonight and then tomorrow.
We had that one time too. Remember?
Yeah.
Where we went out, it was really cold. Trick or treating. That wasn't fun. That was probably one of the worst times trick or treating, or maybe the worst time trick or treating.
Well, when my other son was young, there was one night, and it snowed during Halloween, so you couldn't even wear your costume. You had to wear a coat over it, or you'd just freeze your butt off. So that was bad too. So sometimes it can get really cold here. Not very often. Sometimes it's been really nice, and you just you walk around and it's warm out, but not this time. I don't think it'll be that way at all. I think, in fact, it's supposed to be freezing tonight in the 30s, and tomorrow night it's supposed to be like 40-something during the day, and then the 30s or 20s, the 20s at night. So, so your review was Milky Way bars?
No, I didn't get to give my review yet.
Really?
My review is... I was really thinking about, when I saw this movie, like pizza, frozen pizza with soda. So, it's not a full pizza, though. That's the one thing I'll say, because it is kind of for kids. So, I couldn't make it like a full pizza, because the full pizza would have been the old Goosebumps show, making that into a movie and making it like the books. But as it is a DiGiorno's pepperoni pizza with stuffed crust, but it is a personal size, so it's not the full. And then to drink, I have a Voodoo Mountain Dew, which I got last year. It's kind of the Halloween flavor. And last year, at least, it was kind of like an orangey flavor. It was like tangerine or something, and it was really good. So that's what I would give this movie. Frozen pizza with soda. Because it's a lot of fun. It's just something that you could put on at home at any time and be like, yeah, I had a good time watching that. Even though it's not Goosebumps, it's Slappy World. It's modernized Goosebumps in a good way.
Yeah. So anyway, go see it.
What?
It's good.
What?
See the movie. You'll enjoy it wherever you can find it, whatever streaming service or wherever you can find it. And then that's it. So goodbye, everybody.
Bye.